Welcome the anointed ones. You don't need to tell the world who you are. Your life already does it for you. Ever wonder why people seem to stare at you just a bit longer than usual? Or why it feels like you're walking through life with a spotlight on you, whether you asked for it or not? Here's the thing. You might not be the one seeking attention, but trust me, the world is watching. In fact, studies show that the average person spends nearly 6 hours a day consuming media, browsing social feeds and scrolling through countless lives that aren't their own. What does that mean for you? It means people are watching. They can't help it. And for someone like you, one of God's chosen ones, it's not just a glance, it's studying. But here's the twist. They're not watching you because you're ordinary. Oh no. They're watching because there's something about you they can't quite understand. Something that nags at them. Something that pulls them in but doesn't quite allow them to look away. Maybe you've noticed the sideways glances, the whispers, the way the energy in a room shifts when you walk in. You can't shake it. You're the anomaly in the crowd, the outlier, the one whose life screams, something's different about this person, even when your words remain silent. And here's the punchline. They can't figure out if you're their competition, or if you're a living sign of everything they'll never become. Stick around, because today, we're diving into the 14 reasons why everyone is secretly watching you, and why that's not something to fear, but embrace. So grab some popcorn, because this is about to get interesting. Number 1, you're living proof that their excuses are lies. People are secretly watching you because you're living proof that their excuses don't hold up. They've got their reasons for not doing things, for not pursuing their dreams, for staying stuck in their comfort zones. But then there you are. You're walking proof that those excuses are nothing more than a crutch for the weak. You didn't have the perfect conditions. You didn't get a golden ticket or a free pass. You didn't let setbacks, failures, or hard times stop you, and that's why they're watching you. It's not that they admire you, it's that your very existence is a quiet accusation against them. Your story, your journey, how you carry yourself through life without bowing to the weight of adversity, exposes the lies they've told themselves about why they can't achieve the same. They've convinced themselves that they need all the right circumstances, a little more time, a little more support, a little more luck, to make their big break. But you've had none of those things, and yet you're still standing. You've survived when they would have given up. You've thrived when they thought it was impossible. And every time they look at you, it forces them to confront the truth. The real reason they aren't where they want to be is because they're holding themselves back. They're not watching because they think you're extraordinary in some unattainable way. They're watching because you've done the thing they're too afraid to do. You're the living proof that their stories about why they can't are just that. Stories, your survival, your resilience, your ability to rise time and time again without making excuses, it silently challenges everything they've ever told themselves about their own limitations. And deep down, it eats at them. They're trying to figure out how you're making it look so easy, how you're doing it without needing the excuses they've been clinging to. You've given them a front row seat to the inconvenient truth, and they can't look away. Number 2, they sense you're being monitored by a higher realm. People are watching you because, whether they admit it or not, they can feel something divine is watching you. There's a presence around your life that unsettles them. You walk into a space and the atmosphere changes, not because you're loud or attention-seeking, but because there's a weight to your existence that feels like heaven is watching through your eyes. It's not just you they're reacting to, it's the spiritual spotlight you carry without even trying. People don't always have the words for it, but they feel it. And that feeling makes them hyper-aware of you. It's not about popularity, it's not about how many followers you have or how well dressed you are. It's about a kind of spiritual tension that follows you. You move differently, you speak with clarity that cuts through nonsense. You don't play the games most people play, and your presence alone makes people second-guess their own behavior. They watch because your life feels like it's under surveillance from something bigger, and they want to see if you'll mess up, not out of hate, but out of curiosity. They're wondering, how is this person staying so focused? Who's protecting them? Why does it feel like they're not walking alone? And here's what really shakes them. Things seem to align for you in ways they don't understand. You avoid disasters without even knowing it. You bounce back from setbacks that would destroy most people. You speak something, and within days, it begins to unfold. That kind of divine rhythm is hard to ignore. It makes people watch more closely, even if they act like they're uninterested. Some want to see if your favor will run out. Others want to know if maybe, just maybe, they can tap into the same power by standing close to you, whether it's envy, awe, confusion, or quiet respect. People are watching you because deep down they feel that your life isn't just yours. It's being written and orchestrated by something far greater. And they want to see how the story ends. Number 3, your aura feels like a verdict. People watch you because your energy feels like a silent verdict. You walk into a room and without saying a word, something shifts. It's not arrogance, it's not attitude. It's that you carry a presence that reveals the truth people don't want to face. The way you carry yourself, the choices you make, the standards you hold, they all speak louder than anything you could say. You don't have to call anyone out, just being who you are makes people feel exposed. And that's why they watch. You don't blend in even when you try. Your life, your aura, your spirit, it has a way of showing people what they're not. It's not because you're perfect, it's because you're real. You've faced your darkness. You've done the inner work. You've been through the fire and came out with your soul still intact. Most people haven't. They've learned to wear masks to pretend, to perform, but when you walk in, their mask starts to feel heavy. It slips just a little. You don't have to say a single critical word. Your life itself becomes a quiet confrontation, and that unsettles them. People watch you because they're trying to figure out what it is about you that makes them feel both drawn in and convicted at the same time. It's confusing for them. You're not condemning them, but your existence challenges their comfort zones. You remind them of the choices they didn't make, the discipline they avoided, the integrity they compromised. They watch because your life is like a mirror that doesn't flatter them. It tells the truth. And still, they can't look away. Even if they're irritated by your standards, they respect them. Even if they feel uncomfortable, they're intrigued. You represent what they secretly wish they could be. Honest, unshaken, and rooted. You're not performing for the crowd, but somehow you've become the standard they can't ignore. And deep down, that's why they're always watching. Number 4, your dignity has survived what would have killed them. They're watching you not out of admiration, but out of disbelief. It bothers them, not because you failed, but because you didn't. You're still here, head high, spirit intact, walking with a quiet strength that makes no sense based on what you've survived. They know what you've been through. Maybe not every detail, but enough to know that the average person wouldn't have made it. The betrayals, the losses, the abandonment, the mental warfare, it would have shattered them. And yet you remain unshaken in a way that confuses them. That's why they can't stop watching. Your dignity never left you. You didn't beg. You didn't collapse for sympathy. You didn't lose yourself just because life tried to strip everything else away. And that unnerves people. Because when others go through even a fraction of what you've endured, they either become bitter, break down publicly, or sell their soul just to feel safe again. But you chose to suffer with your head held high. You took the long way, the lonely way, the painful way. And somehow your spirit didn't rot in the process. They're not impressed, they're haunted. Haunted by the idea that someone could go through hell and not come out angry, nasty, or fake. You're not pretending to be okay, you are okay. And that makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to ask themselves, would I still be whole if I had to walk through that? Most can't say yes. So instead of saying they respect you, they watch you in silence, trying to figure out your blueprint. But here's the truth. There is no blueprint. You didn't survive by strategy. You survived by grace, by raw faith, by a quiet refusal to let the pain define you. That's what they can't process. That's what keeps their eyes on you. You should be broken, but you're not. You should be bitter, but you're not. And that alone keeps people watching longer than they want to admit. Number 5, you're the spiritual contradiction. They can't compute. People watch you because your life challenges everything they thought they understood about power, favor, and spirituality. You don't fit the mold. You don't look the part. You're not the loudest in the room. You're not surrounded by fame or fortune, and yet Things happen around you that defy logic. Blessings come out of nowhere. Warnings hit your spirit before danger even shows up. You speak things in private and see them manifest in public. They've already written you off as ordinary, but the outcomes in your life say otherwise. And that contradiction messes with them more than they'll admit. You don't have the credentials. You don't carry the titles. You don't use the language of the spiritually elite. And yet you walk with a presence they can't shake. You carry insight you were never taught. You know things you shouldn't know. You say things that land too hard to be coincidence. They labeled you a nobody, and now they're confused because God clearly didn't get that memo. He keeps showing up in your life in undeniable ways, covering you, guiding you, elevating you quietly, while others are loudly begging for attention. That's the contradiction. To them, you're small, but spiritually you're a giant. You look like the background, but you carry frontline authority. They expect spiritual power to come dressed in robes, rituals, and religious performance, but it came in you, unpolished, real, hidden, and it disrupts their whole system of belief. They don't understand how someone like you is moving like this. It doesn't add up. You're not playing by the rules they thought mattered. That's what keeps them watching, not because they support you, not because they're curious about your personality. They're watching because your life is an ongoing contradiction that keeps proving their shallow logic wrong, and people hate what they can't explain. Number 6, you embody what they silenced in themselves. They watch you because you remind them of who they were before the world broke them down, before they traded authenticity for approval, before they buried their conviction under convenience, before they silenced their own spirit just to fit in, keep peace, or avoid rejection. There was a time when they too had dreams that were unfiltered, when they believed they were called to something higher, when they were willing to say no to the crowd and yes to their inner voice. But life pressured them, and they folded. Now here you are, unshaken, unmoved, unapologetically obedient to something divine, and it confronts the ghost of who they were supposed to be. You didn't sell out. You didn't trade your soul for status. You didn't shrink yourself to survive. You chose to remain aligned with truth, even when it cost you friends, comfort, and validation. And that's what haunts them, because somewhere deep in their memory, they remember being like that. Brave, honest, bold, spirit-led, but they gave it up. And watching you live out what they abandoned brings back that ache, the one they tried to ignore. They don't just see you. They see the version of themselves they buried. That's why the watching is so intense and at times even bitter. You trigger something in them that hasn't died, just been muted. Every time you show up as your full self, it forces them to confront the smallness they settled for. They may call you too much, too deep, or too intense. But it's not really criticism, it's mourning. Mourning the part of themselves they silenced, watching it breathe freely in you. You walk with a level of truth they once had access to, and your existence makes it undeniable that they chose safety over destiny. That's not admiration, that's unresolved regret disguised as observation, and that's why they can't stop watching. Number 7. They're studying you for the blueprint to freedom. Some people aren't watching to hate. They're watching to learn, not in the obvious way, not with compliments or support, but in silence. They're studying you because deep down, they believe you've found something they lost, spiritual freedom. You're walking differently, moving like someone who shook something off that used to weigh heavy. They notice that your mind isn't cluttered like theirs, your soul isn't chained by guilt, fear, or shame like theirs still is. They can tell you've been somewhere spiritually deep and dark and made it out. Now they want to see if you know the path well enough to lead others out too. You're not performing. You're not preaching. You're just living. But your life exposes spiritual keys. The way you discern people without them saying a word. The way you distance yourself from chaos without losing compassion. The way you walk away from what doesn't serve your calling without flinching. It speaks to people who are still stuck in invisible prisons, people who've been faking strength while secretly drowning. They see something in you that feels like a map, and even though they won't say it, they're watching to see if your next move reveals another clue. They don't want to be you. They just want to figure out what broke your chains, because they've tried everything. Religion, self-help, rituals, distractions, and they're still stuck in cycles. But you've broken out of something. You've faced your demons, denied your flesh, obeyed the hard instructions. And now you're walking with the kind of lightness and clarity they crave. They watch because your life says freedom is real and not in some fake, filtered way. You're proof that it's possible to be healed and whole after being crushed. And to people who've been bound for years, that makes you dangerous. Not because you're a threat, but because you carry the evidence. They want to see what door you open next, hoping they can follow quietly behind. Number 8. You activate their guilt without saying a word. You don't preach. You don't call people out. You're not trying to make anyone feel guilty. But your life, the way you move with integrity, the way you tell the truth when it would be easier to lie, the way you remain grounded when others sell out for acceptance, it silently pulls at people's conscience. And the ones who've built their lives on deception, manipulation, and compromise can feel it. Your presence makes their hidden choices feel exposed, not because you said anything, but because the contrast is too loud to ignore. You are who they pretend to be. You live the truth they've edited, avoided, or outright denied. And that's uncomfortable. They want to believe that living crooked is necessary, that bending their morals was survival. But here you are, proof that someone can stand in alignment with divine truth and still thrive. That creates a spiritual dissonance in them. They're watching not just out of curiosity, but out of a deep internal conflict. Because every day you continue walking in truth, their excuses get weaker. And what eats at them most is this: they're hoping you slip, not because they're evil, but because if you fall, they can breathe. Your fall would validate their choices. It would ease the sting of their guilt. It would prove that walking in truth doesn't work, that integrity isn't sustainable, that all this obedience you live by is just temporary showmanship. So they watch, waiting for a crack, a mistake, a misstep. But when you don't, when you keep rising, keep standing, keep remaining consistent in the face of temptation and pressure, their inner unrest deepens. They won't admit it, but your lifestyle holds up a mirror, not to shame them, but to reflect what they could have been had they chosen differently. That's a heavy thing to witness, and that's why they're still watching, not out of love or admiration, but because their conscience is starving for relief, and your integrity won't give it to them. Number 9, your rejection didn't end you, it elevated you. They saw you get pushed out, talked about, disrespected, and treated like you were disposable. They were there for the unraveling. The moment people turned their backs, the moment lies were told, the moment you were made to look like the problem, it looked like the end. To them it was supposed to be. Rejection is supposed to ruin people, supposed to strip them of their confidence, silence their voice, bury their potential. But in your case, it did the opposite. You didn't just survive the exile, you evolved through it. And that's what's making people stare in disbelief. You were supposed to fall apart, but you became sharper, more disciplined, more aware, more spiritually tuned in. You didn't collapse into bitterness or revenge. You stepped into clarity. People expected you to come back angry, broken, or irrelevant, but instead you returned more aligned, more radiant, more focused. They saw you lose connection, community, and credibility, but somehow it unlocked your calling, your creativity, and your divine favor. Now they're watching closely because none of it adds up. They're starting to question what exile really means. Was it punishment, or was it protection? Was it a fall from grace, or a step into real power? Because what was meant to isolate you ended up insulating you. What was meant to strip you ended up refining you. You were cast out and came back with more authority, more spiritual weight, more presence than ever before. That kind of transformation doesn't go unnoticed. People are watching now with different eyes, some with regret, some with curiosity, some with respect they never gave you before. Because now they're realizing the rejection didn't diminish you. It revealed you. It peeled back what was false and forced what was real to rise. And in watching your rise, they're silently asking themselves a deeper question. What if the exile wasn't the curse? What if it was the door to becoming who I was really meant to be? That's the revelation your life is triggering, and that's why they can't stop watching. Number 10. You've made the supernatural feel uncomfortably close. You don't need a pulpit or a title. Your life alone disrupts spiritual comfort zones. The way you speak with timing that's too precise, the way your dreams call things out before they happen, the way your presence shifts the room without you trying. It unnerves people because it makes the supernatural feel too close. You're not walking around claiming to be a prophet, but what you say cuts straight through the fog. You see things no one told you. You know things no one shared, and you keep showing up at moments that feel too aligned to be chance. That kind of awareness doesn't just intrigue people, it terrifies them, especially those who've been living with secrets. People who compartmentalize their lives, wear masks, and move in shadows don't want to be reminded that heaven sees everything. But your presence does exactly that. You live like someone who knows God is watching, not in theory, but in real time. And that quiet knowing follows you like a spiritual signal, one they can't mute. They're not watching because you're dramatic or loud. They're watching because your existence brings invisible things into focus. You disrupt illusions. You expose hidden motives without ever accusing anyone. You don't threaten people, but your alignment with truth naturally convicts anything false around you. It's not that you're trying to be holy. It's that you've chosen to live awake, and that level of spiritual alertness makes others hyper-aware of just how numb or double-minded they've become. Your gifts, the discernment, the timing, the intuition are a problem for people who thought they had time to hide. Every time you speak or show up, it feels like a tap on the shoulder from heaven itself. That's why they're watching, not out of fascination, but out of fear. You remind them there's a higher eye on their actions. You carry a sense of divine surveillance, and they're not ready for that kind of accountability. Number 11, you keep escaping traps. They prayed would destroy you. They've watched you walk through things that were clearly designed to take you out. And it's making them nervous. Because they didn't just witness the traps. Some of them helped set them. They spread rumors, hoping to stain your name. They smiled in your face while hoping you'd break behind the scenes. They manipulated situations, hoping to push you over the edge quietly so they could play innocent. And yet every time they think they've boxed you in, you slip through untouched. Not bitter, not broken, not begging. You just keep walking out of messes that should have buried you. It's not just survival, it's how you survive. You move like someone covered, like someone who has inside information, like someone who's being divinely warned before the attack even fully forms. And that's what's really rattling people. You're not just lucky, you're not just resilient, you're protected. And they're starting to realize it. At first they laughed at you, then they tried to sabotage you, but now they're watching you with suspicion and quiet awe. Because it doesn't make sense how you keep dodging what was meant to destroy you. The betrayal didn't ruin you. The slander didn't silence you. The setups didn't stick. And now they're asking themselves questions they don't want to say out loud. Who's covering them? How did they know? Why can't we take them down? You've become a walking contradiction to their expectations. Every failure they tried to orchestrate became fuel for your next level. Every door they tried to close only redirected you to something better. Now they're scared to touch you, because you keep proving that what's backing you isn't just human strength. It's something unseen but undeniably present. You're being watched, not because of how perfect you are, but because your survival is too consistent to be natural. They thought you were weak. They thought you were alone. But now they're starting to realize there's power backing you that their manipulation can't touch. And that realization is shaking them more than your wins ever could. Number 12, you moved without permission, and they're waiting for consequences. You didn't ask for permission. You didn't wait for a stamp of approval. You simply moved. You stepped out of the system, walked away from the structure they built, and left behind the rules they expected you to obey. You broke free from their mold, from their constraints, and followed a calling that didn't come with a formal invitation. And now they're watching, but not out of support. They're watching with bated breath, waiting for the consequences they believe are inevitable. They've built their entire belief system around the idea that you need their permission to thrive, that their approval is what makes things work. You didn't ask for it, though. You just moved, and they're expecting you to crash because you didn't play by their rules. They can't comprehend how you've made it this far without adhering to their playbook. They're convinced that breaking away from the system is a mistake, that you'll eventually face the fallout. But what really terrifies them is this: what if you don't? What if you keep going, and God continues to open doors? What if you continue to walk in favor even though you ignored every guideline they tried to impose? The longer you move without consequence, the more their foundation cracks. If God keeps endorsing your disobedience, it shakes the very system they trust. It forces them to ask, What if their rules weren't the only way? What if their structure wasn't the only path to success? You're proving that there's a higher authority backing you, one that doesn't fit into their rigid system or need their approval to move mountains. And that's a terrifying thought for those who've spent their whole lives working within the system's limitations. So they're waiting, not for your failure, but for your validation to come from somewhere other than them. And when it does, when God's hand remains on your life, despite your rebellion to their norms, it rewrites everything they thought they knew about power, success, and the paths people are allowed to take. Number 13. They see you as an unwilling prophet. You never signed up for this. You didn't wake up one day and decide, I'm going to be a messenger. In fact, you've probably resisted it more than once, tried to shrink back, or even questioned why you were chosen for this task. But heaven didn't ask for your permission. You were chosen, called, anointed, and now you walk with a mantle you didn't volunteer for. And while you may not always be aware of it, your words carry weight that others can't ignore, and your presence shifts atmospheres in ways you can't explain. People watch you not because you're actively trying to lead or preach, but because there's something otherworldly about the way you show up. You speak in ways that pierce hearts without even trying. You move with a quiet authority that unsettles people who thought they understood the world. You don't perform, you don't force, and yet there's a power in you that disrupts their carefully constructed realities. It's like you're broadcasting heaven's messages, even when you're just living your everyday life, and they're seeing it whether you do or not. They're watching to see if you realize it, to see if you grasp the magnitude of the influence you wield. Every time you speak truth, even in passing, it feels like a divine download, and it lands in people's spirits in ways that can't be ignored. Your life isn't just your own, it's a vessel, a channel, and people can feel it. They sense that there's something beyond you that's driving your every step, and it makes them uneasy because they're not sure if you know how much power you carry. You're not performing a role or chasing recognition, you're just walking in your calling, and that's the most dangerous thing about it. Because you don't have to try to be anything, you just are. And when heaven is using you, even without your consent, it's like a ripple effect that goes far beyond what you can see. People are watching, not just for what you'll do next, but to see if you'll ever fully realize the weight of the mantle you carry and the way it's transforming everything around you, whether you know it or not. Number 14. You're a mirror that doesn't lie. You're not just a person moving through life, you're a living mirror. And that's what makes people uneasy. You reflect everything they've tried to ignore, everything they've buried, and everything they've given up on. When they look at you, they don't just see you, they see the life they could have had if they hadn't settled, the dreams they abandoned, the purpose they left behind. You make them confront the version of themselves they've let slip away. It's uncomfortable because you don't say a word, but your very existence does all the talking. Your success, your clarity, your alignment with your callings. It's a constant reminder of what they once desired, what they once believed in, and what they once felt capable of achieving. And it's not just their regrets you reflect, it's their envy too. They see your potential, and it forces them to recognize their own fears and insecurities. Watching you forces them to face what they've never had the courage to confront about themselves. You didn't ask for this role, but your presence challenges people in ways they can't avoid. It's easy to admire someone from a distance, but when they realize that you are the mirror, they have to ask themselves hard questions. Why didn't they keep going? What stopped them from pursuing their calling with the same determination? Your life is a reminder of what happens when you push through, when you don't give up, when you align with your purpose. And that's why they can't look away. You're showing them the version of themselves they could still be, and it stirs something deep inside them. It's not admiration they feel, it's a mixture of awe, discomfort, and longing. They're not just watching you, they're watching the life they could have lived. And every time they look at you, it's like the mirror cracks a little more, revealing what they've lost and what they could still regain, if only they had the courage to step up and reclaim their own reflection. In the end, the truth is undeniable. You're a force, not by your own power, but by something far greater than anything the world can comprehend. They're watching you, not because you fit into their expectations or walk the paths they've laid out, but because you challenge everything they believe is possible. Your existence is a disruption, a reminder, and a beacon of what happens when someone truly aligns with their purpose, unapologetically and without permission. Every moment you step into, you rewrite the narrative. You're the evidence that breaking free from the system isn't a failure, but the key to your elevation. You're the proof that true power doesn't need validation from the crowd. And as they watch, they wrestle with their own truths, their own limitations, and the reality that perhaps they've been too afraid to live fully. What they can't seem to grasp is that your strength isn't about what you've done. It's about who is backing you, who's guiding you, and what's flowing through you. And while they might study, criticize, or wonder, they can't touch what's inside you. You've moved beyond their reach, so let them watch, let them try to figure it out. In the end, the more they gaze at you, the more they'll realize you're not just surviving in their world, you're transforming it. And when the dust settles, it won't be their rules or expectations that define you. It'll be the undeniable proof of a life led by something far greater. Keep moving, keep living, keep being, and let them wonder. Because you're not just the one they're watching. You're the one rewriting the story they never thought was possible. If this resonated with you and you feel the power of what's been said, don't just let it sit. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss another truth bomb like this. If you're ready to keep breaking through, like this video and drop a comment below. Let's keep this conversation going because you're not alone in this. Share it with someone who needs to hear this today. And together, we can continue rewriting the narrative. Stay tuned, keep pushing, and let's rise higher.